In the days of old Atlantis, the sages, foreseeing the deluge, traveled to the farthest limits of their empire and mixed with native populations, secretly embedding their mysteries there, so that perhaps centuries later, a few noble souls will be able to resurrect those sacred rites. Sounds like a cool story. If only someone wrote a book about that. The Sea Priestess by Dion Fortune, who is perhaps one of the most important occultists of the previous century. She started out by studying Freud and Jung, but believing that neither went far enough, she dove into the world of the occult. Being initiated into the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, she mastered ritual magic and elaborated her own system, which fused together her Christian upbringing and her pagan tendencies. As an occult author, she wrote both fiction and non-fictional works, her non-fiction being the bulk of her occult theory. However, there's something missing from this doctrine, and the missing part is found in her novels. It is this other part, the practical part, that she has embedded in there for the seeker to find. So to engage with Dion Fortune, to engage with her ideas, one can't simply sit down and passively read a theory like a philosophy. You have to actively engage in the novels, the characters, the narrative, and tease out the elements of initiation found within. So The Sea Priestess is a good book to probably start with. It's one of the final novels that Dion Fortune actually wrote in her life. What's it about? The main character, the true main character, spoiler alert, is a woman who may or may not have memories, past life memories of Atlantis. But even though this character is the main character, the story is actually told from someone else's perspective. The POV character is called Wilfred Maxwell, and he is a sassy boy. This is one, I guess, disclaimer I have to give for the book. This book is really British, like really British. Like, you don't understand me here. It's over the top British. If you've never been exposed to British humor before, or British media, it'll almost feel like a culture shock. I mean, the two main areas where the events of the book take place are called, one is called Dickford, and the other is called Dickmouth. That's right, classic British names. That's how you know it's British. But it's not just the place names, it's the characters as well. So this Maxwell guy, he is kind of a loser in the sense that he's a mama's boy. So it's a male character written by a female. Very interesting. His dad was, let's just say, not present growing up. So he's a mama's boy raised by his mom, grew up fighting and being catty with his sister, and he's an asthmatic. He doesn't have any sense of virility whatsoever. Complete opposite of someone you'd expect to be a hero. And you know, what happens to men when they can't, show off their virility? When they don't learn through trials and learn how to use their body? If they're just sick boys that get pampered in bed all day, they become passive-aggressive, annoying, catty. So when I say Maxwell is a sassy boy, he's sassy. He's sassy, all right. And it makes me wonder, even though this book is written by a female, I feel like most women who read this book will be immediately put off by Wilfred. They won't be able to finish it. They'll pick it up, they'll start reading, they'll be like, this guy's a f***ing dick. And they'll put it down. And it's a shame because, look, he's not that bad. He's just British, okay? I swear to God, Maxwell, he's just British. If you can get past the British, there's gold in their pills, I tell you. So what about the magic then? What about all of the occult secrets in this book? There's some good stuff in here. There's some good stuff in here for reals. One of the first things that gets mentioned is a little astral projection technique, funnily enough, using the moon. They actually reference a book on astral projection, the old Sylvia Muldoon book. If anyone's into astral projection, that's probably like one of the classics. You gotta get on that if you've never read it before. Other than that, there's this scene where the characters are looking into the flames, and they kind of have visions, sometimes of distant places in space, sometimes temporally into the past, like they attain past life memory. But really what's being kind of taught here, from the perspective of the character, the phenomenological experience, which is important to kind of read in this sense because it's a real experience. There's real experience here. She's putting her own experiences of path working in. For those who don't know what path working is, You might know what active imagination is if you've been around Jungian psychologists a while. So then an explanation of that would be, what's active imagination? It's not just fantasizing about things. The whole idea with active imagination was to try and reconcile the problems of studying the subconsciousness in psychoanalysis. Because when you really think about, consciousness-subconscious dichotomy, a problem begins to arise. Because what can you really be conscious of? Or more precisely, what can you really know about the subconscious or unconscious regions of yourself? Like if you sit down and you introspect, and you see within your mind a subconscious process, you consciously perceive a mental process. Well, if you perceive it, if you cognize it, then it's in your consciousness. It's not a subconscious process. So there's this kind of contradiction or difficulty in making assertions about subconsciousness, because any assertion you make could be tinted with subconscious bias. So Jung's solution to this was active imagination, which was basically you create an image. Or maybe you don't create an image, but you allow an image to arise, and that image becomes a vessel. And what does it become a vessel for? So imagine the subconscious as an ocean of mental processes. There are all of these mental processes that are going on in your mind that are autonomous, and you're not conscious of them. Like, think of your memories. Your memories in and of themselves, you don't remember everything in your life all at once. In fact, to remember one thing, you have to kind of put other things out of your mind to focus on that memory. So memory is interesting because that's something that's in our subconscious that we can call to, and it comes into our consciousness. We remember something. But there are other things which we don't even know are there. And so how do you come to know them? The idea is via creating a kind of an image. These forces within us that are a part of us, that are unknown to us, can be almost invoked into an image, and we can interact with the representation. You're kind of creating a secret third space between your consciousness and your subconsciousness, where the chthonic forces within you and the conscious human can actually kind of speak to each other. That is active imagination. Pathworking takes it one step further and says, if that's possible, if you can interact with the invisible forces within you, well, nature has an invisible aspect. What's to say that you can't create an image, and then the invisible forces of nature inhabit that image, make it alive, bring it to life, and you yourself can interact consciously with nature itself, or intelligent forces, the intelligent forces behind nature, through that image. That's what the difference between pathworking and active imagination is, and pathworking in this book is described really well. So you get it from, like, the POV character and the vision that he kind of goes through, and, it's mainly his memory. He goes into, like, his past life memory and has this kind of vision. Reading that can be helpful. You kind of can derive certain technique from it that may help you in your own practice. Now, as well as all this, there's one other thing that I should mention. There's the big crescendo of the story is this ritual that takes place in a castle by the ocean. So Maxwell in the story, he's kind of one of those guys that flips houses, that sells properties and lands. That's his business. And he's a bit of an architect as well. And the main character basically helps or uses him to acquire a castle that is then, built up and done up. A castle by the ocean where a ritual, and then Maxwell gets suckered into kind of doing this ritual. And the ritual, I'm going to say something, it's going to be controversial, but I think this ritual holds a lot of keys for anyone who's interested in sexual magic. Now, that's a controversial thing to say, because Dion Fortune was very, you can feel the Victorian sensibilities in her still. She's very British, and this book is very British. It's very Pride and Prejudice, male and female characters don't even hold hands, they just complement each other from afar. So the polarity working, I'll say, is metaphorical for a type of sexual magic that I think is very important, because the whole essence of it is this reconciliation of the sexes. And that's really the theme throughout this book, is this mending of the division between the sexes. And this is her project, in a sense, is to bring the sexes together. It's almost like knowing unity of the all, knowing the all through the other, and really only being able to come to the other via the secret third thing, via that, that special kind of secret third thing that is evoked between the pillars of the temple, if you know what I mean, so that the man can know the all through the woman, and the woman can gain her active part. In essence, in initiation, in high magic, the woman becomes active and becomes the initiator that initiates the masculine. There are very intriguing ideas here. Things that us as modern occultists, I think, look over. Really, Dion Fortune, despite her book, most of her books being almost 100 years old now, I think they're still vital and should be read now. And it's sheer criminality that she's not more well known. Go read her books. Go buy the Sea Priestess. I'm not even going to use affiliate links, or maybe I am. Check the description. In conclusion, what's all this got to do with Atlantis? Is any of this even Atlantean magic? Well, her concept of Atlantean magic isn't something that's dead in the past in history. It's that there is something eternal that exists above history and that emanates into the history. There is something eternal that touches something that is temporal, and we, being temporal, can touch eternity through certain sacred rites. That is the thesis that she is proposing. It's very ambitious. What she wants to do, in essence, Dion Fortune is a traditionalist, not just an occultist. She doesn't want to just go back to doing ancient Greek magic or pagan Celtic magic. She wants to go prehistory and return to Atlantis. It's incredibly ambitious, and I can't recommend her works highly enough. Please, for the love of God, remember Atlantis. It's what Dion would have wanted.